swear.
This is our radio station. Let's make it dramatic.
So they said, what the heck happened? And he fell to his knees, you know. And then there was, he said it's a panther, because there used to be panthers in the New Brunswick woods.
Gotcha.
You know, they're hunted out. They're extinct now. But there used to be panthers, and they make great yowling sounds. So he says it's a panther.
That's incredible. I had no idea there were panthers out there.
Oh, golly, yes.
Wow.
Then there was another great whoop, you know, and he fell right down to the ground. And when he sat up, his hair had run white.
Wow.
And he said, no, it's not a panther. He says, it's a screech owl. Because a screech owl will make a heck of a sound in the night. He says, screech owl, that's all it is, you know.
Yeah.
Bury that grave. They put his body in there and bury him. And then there was a third whoop, and it was so loud, and the boss just fell down cold. And they buried.
Are you still with us, Steve?
Hello, yes.
Okay, I thought I lost you there.
Okay, I thought I'd lost you too. I think I pressed my cheek against a button there, or it might be a call coming through.
There we go. So
Okay.
what happened there at the end? The boss fell.
The boss fell stone cold, and they buried him right there with the camp cook. They buried the two of them together.
So were there people with him when this happened, or were they were back at camp when this?
No, this was a camp crew. He wasn't going to dig the grave himself.
Gotcha. So he was all alone.
Yeah, he brought them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Had them bury him, and once they'd finished burying him, boss and cook,
Right.
they just said, you know, we're going back to the town. We're not going to stay here.
Heck yes.
Yeah, and after that, they sent a priest out there, you know, and he blessed the woods. He said the Lord's Prayer. He did, he did basically a homegrown sort of exorcism.
Right.
And all the time, the woods are just loud and whooping, and you know, getting louder and louder. And campers go out there and they hear the whooping, and you know, there was a film crew out there. They heard the whooping. You know, it's been going on a long time. It's a traditional New Brunswick tale.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Are there any stories of, I don't know how far out this is going to sound, but are there any stories of Sasquatch being in this part of Canada?
Well, there was
I know there's a story of a werewolf in New Brunswick.
the werewolf, the loup-garou, that's
Right.
Acadian, because that comes right from France, basically.
Right.
The phantom, yeah, there was a Sasquatch, and let me.
You're kidding me.
Oh yes. Yeah, here. It was the Parker Road Phantom.
Gotcha.
Yeah, around Berwick, Nova Scotia. It was seen back in the 1800s, and you know, they'd see this great hairy shape prowling through the woods, usually on foggy nights. And then in April 1969, it was seen again. And just a few years ago, this one fella confessed that he and his brother had been the 1969 site, and they'd taken their grandfather's old army coat, the big old long coat.
Yeah.
And they you know, one had sat on top of the other's shoulders with the coat draped over them, and an old bag, and some, you know, I think they had a, you know, fur dangling down, that sort of thing. Yeah, and they prowled through the woods to sort of piggyback style.
That's right. Now this.
People saw them, but that doesn't explain the sightings in the 1800s.
Gotcha.
That's a story that I put in Maritime Monsters.
Absolutely.
Because it turned out to have been set up by two kids. But you know, like I say, it doesn't explain the sightings in the 1800s. So that's definitely a sort of a Sasquatch style story that took place right in Nova Scotia.
That is fascinating. I've always been interested in the Sasquatch.
Now, I knew they also found a bear man. I think they found him up at Labrador. So that's not quite Nova Scotia, but it's still part of the Atlantic provinces.
A bear man?
Yeah, some people say he was raised by the bears. Other people say he just grew up in the woods, sort of thing, you know. But I don't know all the details to that. I looked into it and I thought, should I include that? And I decided, well, I had one Sasquatch story in the collection. That's enough.
Right.
So I don't know the details.
Well, that's a good
I have to root through my books to hunt that one up.
Exactly. Now, the Parker Road Phantom, that's a good segue into Maritime Monsters. I'm going to go ahead, Steve, here and insinuate that Maritime Monsters is kind of a dulled down for kids edited version of a lot of your prior investigations put into one book?
Well, there's a couple of the stories that were mentioned in the bigger collections that I put in Maritime Monsters.
Excellent.
Maritime Monsters is a picture book for kids.
That's right.
And it's basically a field guide to all the lake lizards and sea monsters and mermaids and selkies of the Atlantic provinces.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'd call it dumbed down, but
no,
it's definitely written in more of a playful style.
Yeah, no, I said dulled down. I would never...
My phone is a little wonky. I've got it set up in my computer room, so I don't think you can hear it on your side, but on my side, everything gets futzy every now and then. There's static.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of that, but that's not a big deal because the meat and potatoes in this interview is golden and it's easy to overlook. Now, when I read the first story in Maritime Monsters, I wasn't sure if this was a work of fiction or nonfiction, and then I came to realize, these are stories that have been recounted and told over the years by certain individuals. Am I right?
Yes.
Now, how did you contact these people for these stories, or were these mostly discovered through historical records?
Most of my stories are drawn from the archives, from the old newspaper articles, from history.
Did you do any interviews with some people for this book?
For this book,
I'm just so curious about the people. I love the people of this end of Canada.
No, I'd have to say I don't believe I talked to a couple of people from some of the stories for the other collections that I used again in this. Mm-hmm. But I know I don't. I'm not that kind of an archivist. I deal with mostly through the written word more than I'm not going around to people's homes. I'm not the new Helen Creighton. I won't pretend to be.
Okay, well, it's irrelevant anyway. I was just curious. It's a fascinating collection of stories. Steve, how did you find these stories? Like, I was going through this book thinking, where in the heck? I've never even heard of these things. These are incredible, fun stories. Where did you get these things? How did you get your hands on these?
Well, as I said, I have been rooting through the archives and through history books and through old collections for years now, decades.
They're obscure stories, though. It's just, you must have done a lot of good mining for these.
It's something I enjoy. A lot of these stories are stories I've been telling before I even got the idea of putting them in between book covers. I would just tell these at kids' parties or tell these to my daughter at bedtime, sort of thing. I'd tell her a ghost story, as she got older. And so a lot of these stories that come out originally come just from, me telling stories, or sometimes in front of schools.
Absolutely.
So it's something I do all the time. Now I'm trying to branch out a bit from that. Next spring I have a children's, a young adult novel coming out.
Well,
it's sort of a coming of age novel. It's a novel about coastal Nova Scotia. It's a novel about caber tossing and sea serpents. So it's
cool.
Sort of a combination.
Man, you and I have a pretty good synchronicity here, because my next question was, what's on the horizon for Mr. Steve Vernon? You stole it right from my mouth, sir.
Well, that's already been contracted for and sold, and I'm just working on the final revisions of it, and they've already, it's already on the schedule from Nimbus to come out in 2011. I'm currently working on a young adult Sasquatch novel that I'm going to see if I can sell to another publisher, because Nimbus is all maritime, and this would be more, I'd be looking at, a prairies publisher, hopefully more like a Canadian publisher, a cross-Canadian publisher, not just Nimbus is a regional publisher. They sell primarily through the Atlantic provinces. So.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations on these new prospects.
Thank you. And tomorrow I'll be appearing. Well, I can't say tomorrow because you're just taping it today.
Right.
So.
Okay.
But actually, I'm going on breakfast television tomorrow to publicize the release of a collection of vampire stories.